Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that honestly completely shifted my own perspective on national security. We usually think of our oceans and our physical border checkpoints as this impenetrable shield. But what happens when that shield is just completely bypassed? Today, we're going to take a hard look at a pretty startling reality: Canadians becoming direct victims of foreign entities, all orchestrated from literally thousands of miles away. Okay, let's dive into this. Are our borders truly secure from foreign crime? It's a question that immediately challenges our most basic assumptions about local safety. We tend to think, right, that if a criminal organization is based halfway across the globe, the threat to our daily lives here in Canada is, well, minimal. But the intelligence and data we're unpacking today, they paint a very different and honestly a highly alarming picture. The whole concept of overseas crime is kind of vanishing because in our hyperconnected digital world, transnational organized crime networks simply don't need to cross an ocean to victimize people living right here in Canada. They are projecting violence and control directly into our neighborhoods.
Part 1. The Invisible Border.
Part 2. Extorting the diaspora. Now, what's really interesting about this is that we're looking at an April 2026 special bulletin from FINTRAC. That's Canada's financial intelligence agency. This isn't just internet rumor or neighborhood gossip, guys. This official intelligence outlines a severe, sustained extortion threat that is currently devastating Canada's South Asian diaspora across British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario. It's absolute concrete proof that foreign entities are reaching right into Canada to extract wealth through fear. Let me read this directly from the intelligence report. Extortion targeting South Asian communities has evolved from sporadic threats into a sustained campaign of coercion. I mean, think about the real-world implications of that. This is having a massive psychological and operational impact. We're talking about everyday Canadians, people running retail shops, working in real estate, transportation, or hospitality, who are suddenly finding themselves targeted and victimized by international crime syndicates. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the escalation tactics used by these foreign entities are absolutely chilling. It starts completely invisibly. Step 1 is usually just an anonymous call or a message over an encrypted chat app. Then, step 2, the demands drop. And we're not talking small change here. Often, these range from hundreds of thousands to literally millions of dollars. And if those Canadian business owners refuse, well, step 3 is brutal: physical violence. We are seeing actual gunfire directed at local homes and storefronts, and targeted arson, all ordered by individuals sitting in a completely different hemisphere. Part 3. Foreign crime syndicates. This naturally brings us to a crucial question: who exactly is orchestrating this violence on Canadian soil? Well, according to FINTRAC, multiple crime groups linked to India are involved here. On one side, you have the Bishnoi Gang, which, by the way, the government of Canada actually designated as a listed terrorist entity in September 2025 because of its role in orchestrating overseas violence. And on the other side is the Bambiha Gang, a fierce rival syndicate running counter-operations. Together, it's just shocking to realize that these foreign networks are operating with such impunity. They're creating an intense climate of insecurity for Canadians and basically targeting local businesses as their personal ATMs. But how do they actually move the money they extort from Canadians without ever stepping foot in the country? Well, they exploit local vulnerabilities through what are called money mules. A money mule is simply a financial intermediary. They're used to transfer illicit funds on behalf of these criminal networks. The syndicates actually recruit people already living in Canada to handle the dirty work of laundering their extortion proceeds. It basically bridges the gap between physical violence and financial mechanics. And when you look at the data on who they recruit, it's honestly heartbreaking. These foreign networks intentionally target the vulnerable. They heavily recruit young male Indian nationals who are living in Canada on study permits. These young men are often financially precarious. They're isolated. And the syndicates manipulate them into acting as financial intermediaries, enforcers, or just ground-level foot soldiers. It's this vicious cycle where foreign gangs prey on vulnerable international students specifically to terrorize and victimize Canadian diaspora communities. Part 4. Transnational human trafficking. So the crucial point is, this manipulation of borders extends into an even darker web of global crime. When I first saw these numbers, I literally could hardly believe it. According to Statistics Canada, between 2014 and 2024, there were 5,070 police-reported human trafficking incidents in Canada. 5,070. And a significant portion of this staggering figure involves foreign nationals who were lured here, completely trapped by invisible systems of control. You see, Traffickers don't usually just kidnap people off the street like in the movies. They use intense psychological coercion. Foreign entities lure victims with deception, false promises of high-paying jobs, maybe free schooling, or exciting travel opportunities. But once they actually arrive in Canada, the reality is forced labor or sexual exploitation. It's a stark reminder of our central theme today. Foreign entities are continuously utilizing deceptive pipelines to victimize vulnerable people right on Canadian soil. And the global reach of these trafficking networks pulling people into Canada, it's incredibly vast. According to FinTrack analysis, victims trafficked into Canada originate from a huge array of countries. We see origins tracing back to China, South Korea, the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, and various nations across Eastern Europe. This is a highly coordinated, borderless trade where the commodity is actual human beings. Part 5. Following the illicit money. So how do Canadian authorities actually fight an enemy they can't physically see, one that's hiding behind digital walls and international borders? Well, they follow the money. And this brilliantly illustrates how massive the financial footprint really is. Millions of dollars of illicit funds are constantly funneled out of Canada to fuel these foreign transnational criminal networks. FinTrack tracks massive outgoing funds transfers to international destinations, including the Philippines, China, India, Brazil, Russia, and the United States. Basically, Canadian wealth is being drained to empower overseas syndicates. To get this money out of the country, these syndicates are absolute masters of disguise. They mask massive international transfers as everyday innocent personal expenses. They'll provide false justifications to banks, claiming the money is just for family gifts, loan repayments, consulting fees, or maybe international tuition. The contrast here is what makes it so incredibly deceptive. Everyday expenses are used as a cover, but the actual use of these funds is horrifying. It is directly financing human trafficking networks and fueling overseas gang violence. Part 6. Tracking the transnational threat. Zooming out for a second, we really have to recognize that this threat goes way beyond isolated street-level extortion or single trafficking rings. Intelligence reports show that organized crime groups, or OCGs, linked to Asia and Latin America, are actively infiltrating Canada's political and economic infrastructure. By compromising employees at international airports and targeting our ports of entry, these foreign entities are weakening the very systems meant to protect Canadian citizens, and that facilitates the transit of illicit drugs and massive sums of money. But listen, there is a massive whole of government pushback happening right now. Authorities are actively cutting the financial lifelines of these networks. FinTrack is out there dynamically tracking not just traditional bank transfers, but cryptocurrency wallets and fiat exchanges used by these groups. Simultaneously, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada is stepping up to protect victims by issuing specific temporary resident permits. This ensures that foreign victims of trafficking aren't just deported right back into danger. And agencies like the RCMP and CIS are engaging in some pretty unprecedented multi-agency intelligence sharing. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly pressing thought. In a world where your smartphone can literally bring an international crime syndicate right to your front door, what does national security actually mean? When a gang in another hemisphere can victimize people in your local neighborhood, the physical border might still exist on the map, sure, but the true frontline, it's now everywhere. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep questioning what you see.